everyone. Welcome to day 10 of PRAGATII test booster sessions. Before moving forward with this session, am I properly audible and is the screen visible? All right, thank you for that heads up. Now, with that said, we'll be quickly moving forward with the session, and in today's session as well, we'll be continuing quantitative aptitude, right? In the previous session, we did partnership, profit and loss, interest, and those things, right? In today's session, we are going to solely focus on averages, HCF and LCM, and percentages, right? These are quite fun topics to deal with, and I hope you guys will enjoy them as much as I do. So with that said, let us quickly move forward with the slides, right? All right, so take a look at this, right? So percentage in layman terms is basically a number or a ratio expressed as a fraction of 100, right? So percentages are usually used to represent relations in regards to some greater quantity. For instance, if you look at this pie chart, this data represents the browsers that are commonly used throughout the world. So from this, what we can see is 19.2% of the world's population that uses the internet uses Firefox browser, 15.6 use Safari, and so on, right? So percentages are usually used to represent things in accordance to 100, right? So for instance, I can write 60 over 100, right? And this is equivalent to 60%. So basically anything that can, right? So this is quite easy to see. Concept is quite clear, right? So with this, let's directly move on to some practice problems. All right. So the first problem is this. You guys can feel free to solve them and send the answers through the chat box. Absolutely. So I'm getting a few answers in the chat box from Roshan, from Edward, from BR, Samya, and all of you are correct. The correct answer is in fact option number E, 0.25. Why is that the case? First, in this question, we'll be calculating 5% of rupees 100, which happens to be rupees 5, right? So now then again, we have to calculate of rupees 5, right? And in this, what we can do is 5 over 100 times 5, and this is equal to 25 over 100, right? And since there are 2 zeros here, the decimal will shift 2 zeros to the left from here to here. So this is equivalent to 0.25, right? So the correct answer is option number A. This is quite easy, quite intuitive, right? So with this said, let's quickly move on to question number 2. What percent of is 42 kg of 336 kg? Absolutely. I'm getting answers from Samjana, from Samya, from BR, from everyone. The correct answer in this case is option number A, which is 12.5. It's quite easy. All you have to do is 42 over 336, right, times 100, right? And this directly comes out as 12.5%, right? And this is the correct answer. Option number C is not correct. It is off by 0.25%. So option number E is the precise one. E is the correct answer. Right? Was this clear to everyone? All right, cool. So let's move on to question number 3. Find number which is 70% less than 60. Yep, absolutely. It's exactly as Roshan and Samjana say. The correct answer is option number A, right? Which is 18, right? Why is that the case? All you guys have to do in this case is we have to find a number which is 70% less than 60, right? So what's 70%? 70% of 60, right? 70% of 60 is 42, right? We simply 70 over 100 times 60, which comes out as 42, right? Since we have to find the number which is 70% less than 60, we subtract 42 from 60. So 60 minus 42 is 18, right? And this is the correct answer. Was this clear to everyone? I mean, the question is quite simple when you simply look at it. You simply have to find 70% of 60 and subtract that amount from 60, right? So it's fairly intuitive. So someone's asking how we got 42. It's 7 times 6, 70, 70 by 100 times 60, right? And this is zeros cancel out, right? So 7 times 6 is 42. It's fairly simple. All right, so with this said, let us quickly move on to the other problem. What fraction is equivalent to 0.8%? All right, so some are saying C, some are saying E. The correct answer in this case is option number E. That is because if you were just given 0.8, then 4 by 5 is the fraction form of this decimal, right? So C number would have been correct. But since we're given 0.8%, right? What we have to do is we have to further divide this by 100, right? And we know that 0.8 is 4 by 5, right? 4 by 5. And we are further dividing this by 100, right? And so 4 1 times is 4, and 4 25 times is 100. So this is equivalent to 1 over 125, right? and this is option number E. Is this clear to everyone? All right, cool. This one was quite easy as well. Let's move on to this. Absolutely. I'll be waiting for a few seconds for more engagement in the chat. Yup, the correct answer is exactly as Samjana, Samya, and Edward say. The correct answer is option number E, right? But why is that the case? Take a look at this. The first condition says that 20% of A is B, right? So from this, what we can make C is 20 over 100 times E is equal to B, right? Because 20%, which is 20 over 100, times E or of E is equal to B, right? Now what we have to find is B% of 20 is the same as what? So what we do is we multiply both sides by 20 over 100. Why I'm doing this, that'll be clear later on, right? So 20 by 100 times 20 over 100 times E is equal to B times 20 over 100. Now take a look at this. Right hand side can be written as B over 100 times 20, right? Now we know that B over 100 is B%, right? We know this. And we also have got 20. So this is B% of 20, exactly as the question asks, right? So we have got one thing figured out. Now all we have to do is solve the left-hand side. And from this we get 4 over 100 times E. 4 over 100 is 4%, and this is E. So the correct answer is 4% of E. Was this clear to everyone? All right, so it seems some people are still confused. I'll be explaining this once again, right? So take a look at this. First, let me erase some things. What I simply did in this particular question is take a look at this, right? The first condition that is given, 20% of E is B, right? I'm simply rewriting that in an equation format, right? Next up, we've got the question is asking B% of 20 is the same of what? B% of 20 is B over 100, right? Times 20. Now to bring this equation into this format, and which can take a look at this can be rewritten as B times 20 over 100, right? So to bring this particular equation, which is given from the question, to this format, what we do is we multiply by 20 over 100 on both sides, right? So we do this, and what we get is 4 over 100 in the left-hand side times A is equal to B over 100 times 20. And so we've got B% of 20 is equivalent or equal to 4% of E, right? Is everyone clear now? Is this clear to everyone now? All right, cool. So with this, we'll be moving on to the next topic, which is average, right? Now, average is basically sum, right? Sum divided by the number of quantities. Average is usually denoted by, in statistics, average is called the mean, right? So it can be denoted by X bar. This is standard notation in mathematics for average, but this is not really needed in the problems that we're going to solve. What's needed, however, are these formulas. These are super important. So what I want you guys to do is take a screenshot of these particular slide, right? Because these 5 formulas come really handy when you want to solve questions fast, especially MCQ ones. Right, so I'm assuming that every one of you took a screenshot of this particular page, right? So with that, let us move on to the first problem. I'll be waiting for a few minutes for you guys to solve this. Then absolutely, the correct answer is, as most of you say, the correct answer is option number C, which is 50, right? But why is that the case? Take a look at this, right? We know that BJ's expenditure for 3 days, right? We know for first day it's 100, for second it's 125, for third it's 85. And we have to find his expenditure for the fourth day, right? We know the average as well. Now we know the formula for average, that is sum, right? So I'll be taking a sum of all of these plus 125 plus 85 plus let's say X for the expenditure of the fourth day, which we have to find, divided by 4, right? Because we've got 4 quantities in the numerator, is equal to 90. Now, after you solve this, you take 4 to the right hand side, you multiply 4 to the right hand side, then you subtract this entire thing from the right hand side. What you get is X is equal to 50, right? This is fairly straightforward. Did everyone get this? Was this clear to everyone? All right, awesome. So with this done, let us quickly move on to the second problem. I'll be waiting for a few seconds as always. All right, so take a look at this problem, right? Without boss, take a look at this, right? Without boss, there are 11 employees, right? And the salary of employees with the boss is 18,000, right? Now, when we don't consider the salary of the boss, the average salary reduces by 1,000. So for 11 employees, the average AVG average is equal to 17,000, right? Is equal to 17,000. So with this, what we know is that the total salary is equal to 17,000, right? Which is the average times 11, which is the number of employees. This is 17,000, which is equal to 187,000, right? So this is the total salary of 11 employees, right? Now, when we bring the boss into play, right? The total salary of 12 people, right? Including boss is equal to 18,000, which is the average salary, right? Times the number of people that are present, that is 12, which is equal to 216,000, right? So with this, we can directly find the salary of boss. This is total salary of 11 employees. This is total salary of 11 employees, including the boss. So the salary of boss is equal to 216,000 minus 187,000, which is equal to 29,000, which is option number D. Was this clear to everyone? All right, cool. So this is fairly simple as well, right? I mean, you just have to look at it. Right, so some people are saying that they're quite confused at this. So I'll be explaining this once more, right? So we know that the formula for average, which I'll be writing as X bar, is equal to total over number n, right? Now we know from what we are doing here is we are finding the total salary, right? By doing average times the number of people or the number of items or number of whatever, right? So the average is 17,000 for 11 employees, which is 1,000 less than 18,000, so 17,000. And the total number of employees is 11, right? So we are multiplying these two to get this particular value as the total salary of 11 employees, right? Now, when the boss is included, right, there become 12 people, right? Because there are already 11 employees. So with the boss, it's 12 people. And the average salary is given in the problem, which is 18,000, right? So what we're doing is total salary of 12 people, including the boss, is 18,000 times 12, right? Which is 216,000. Now the salary of boss is simply this particular value minus this particular value, because the only difference between these two total salaries is the salary of boss, right? So when we subtract these two, we get the salary of the boss. Absolutely. Was this clear to everyone? All right, cool. So with this said, let's move on to the third problem. What will be the average price of all goods bought if Ajay buys 30 razors for rupees 3 each, 35 chocolates for Euro? The correct answer in this case is option number B, rupees 6, right? This is fairly simple as well. So we've got the total sum of, first what we have to find is the total sum, right? So what we do is 30 times 3, right? We are basically adding 30 times because there are 30 razors. Then we've got 35 times 10, which gives a total sum for the amount of chocolates bought. And then lastly, we're doing 25 times 4, which gives a total sum for the amount of clips bought. This gives a total sum of money, right? Now, to find the average, we have to find the total number of items. So for that, what we do is 30 erasers plus 35 chocolates plus 25 clips. Now, whatever the answer from this particular equation is the answer that we are seeking, right? And solving this, the correct answer comes out as 6. So option number B is the correct answer. Was this clear to everyone? All right, cool. So with this done, let's move on to the fourth question. All right, so the correct answer is, as Samya, BR, and Edward say, the correct answer is option number C, which is 426, right? The formulae I gave you guys at the beginning of this particular section, comes in really handy when you have to solve problems of these types, right? Because you can simply put them into formula and then you'll get a specific answer, right? So the formula for the average of squares of natural numbers, or the first n natural numbers, right? And natural numbers is given by n plus 1, right? N plus 1 whole times 2n plus 1 divided by 6, right? This gives the average of the squares of first and natural numbers, right? So keep that in mind as well. If you were given the average of squares of natural numbers from, let's say, 5 to 35, then this formula would not have worked, because this works only when the first number is 1, right? And only when you're dealing with natural numbers, right? So keep that in mind as well. So with this, what you can do is there are 35 numbers in this case, right? So what you do is 35 plus 1 whole times 70, which is 35 times 2 plus 1 divided by 6. And you solve this 36, 36, and 36. This comes out at 6 because 6 and 36 cancel out. 6 times 71, right? Which is 426. Was this clear to everyone? Great. So with this done, let's move on to another problem. Find average of natural numbers from 1 to 65. Absolutely. The correct answer is, as most of you say, the correct answer is option number E, right? 33. Now, as mentioned, the formula for average of first n natural numbers is n plus 1 over 2, right? Now, the total number of items that we have in this case is 65. So this happens to be 65 plus 1 over 2, which is 66 over 2, which is 33. So 33 is the correct answer in this case. Is this clear to everyone? Great. So with this done, let's move on to the other problem. Absolutely. The correct answer in this case is option number B, which is 24. But why is that the case, right? Take a look at this. So let us assume that the largest number in this case is n, right? So the other even numbers become n minus 2, which is the other consecutive even number, and n minus 4, right? Now what we are given is the sum, their sum, which is 3n minus 6, is 44 more than the average. Now their average in this particular case is n minus 2, right? We simply divide this left-hand side by 3 because there are 3 items. And then we add 42 because the left-hand side is 44 greater than their averages. So we solve this particular equation. We get 2n is equal to 48, right? And we get n is equal to 24. And since n is the largest even number, that is our answer. Is this clear to everyone? All right, so it seems it's not clear for a few of you. So take a look at this, right? This first line, n minus 2, and n minus 4. What do you, n, so even numbers differ by a difference of 2, right? For instance, 2, 4, 6, 8, they all differ by a common difference of 2. So what we are doing in this case is simply assuming that n is the largest even number among these 3, right? And so the other even numbers come out as n minus 2, right? The consecutive lower even number, and n minus 4 is the consecutive lowest even number, which is at a common difference of 2 from this second item, all right? So with that, this left-hand side is the sum of these 3, sum, right? And this particular expression, n minus 2, is the average of those 3, average, right? And what the question says is that the sum is 44 greater than 44 more than the average of those numbers. So with that, 3n minus 6 equals n minus 2 plus 44. So the answer comes out. And once you solve this equation for n, the answer comes out as n equals 24. Was this clear now? All right, cool. So I hope this is clear to everyone, right? Let's move on to the other problem. All right, let's quickly solve this problem as well. The correct answer is exactly as Roshan, Matilda, and Samya and Edward say. The correct answer is option number E, which is 9, right? Now, how did we arrive at this particular answer? Take a look at this. The average of 5 quantities is 6, right? So we have got some certain 5 quantities. So the denominator will be 5 and the average is 6, right? Now what we are given is the average of 3 of them is 4, right? So there are 5 of them here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? From these, the average of the average of these 3, let's say the ones highlighted in yellow, these 3 is as given as 4, right? 4. The average is 4, right? So what this directly implies is that the sum of these three, sum of the three is equal to 3 times 4, right? 3 times 4, because we know that average is equal to total by the number of items, and total is the sum that we are talking about here, right? So the total comes out as the number of items times the average, which is 3 times 4, which is 12, right? So we substitute 12 in this particular equation, right? Then we solve for the sum of the remaining two, right? So what we get is sum of remaining two is equal to 18, right? Because 5 times 6 is 30, and 30 minus 12, right? The sum of these three is 12, right? So 30 minus 12 is 18. So we've got the sum of remaining two from this, right? So now the average is basically simply sum divided by the number of items, which is 2. So this is 18 over 2, which is equal to 9, which is the correct answer. Was this clear to everyone? All right, so with this done, we've come to the end of averages. Let's move on to HCF and LCM, which is even more fun. You guys can take a screenshot of this formula or note it down somewhere, right? This is super important once you start dealing with problems related to HCF and LCM, right? Assuming you guys have noted this down, let's quickly move on to practice problems. Now, greatest common divisor and highest common factor, both are the same things, right? GCD or HCF, both are the same things, keep that in mind. And least common multiple or lowest common multiple is the same thing as well. HCF, LCM, GCD, those HCF and GCD are the same. LCM is LCM, right? All right, so the correct answer to this is exactly as Roshan and Samjana and Edward say. The correct answer is option number C, which is 72, right? We basically use the previous formula that I showed to you guys, right? With that, what we know is that product of two numbers, 16 times x being the number that we have to find, is equal to the product of their LCMs and HCF, right? LCM and HCF. So this is 8 times 144, right? So with this, we get x is equal to 8 8 over 16 is 1 over 2, and 144 times 1 over 2 is 72, right? So 72 is the correct answer in this case. Was this clear to everyone? This is fairly simple. Is this clear to everyone? All right. So with this done, let's move on to the other practice problem. Almost every problem in this particular section are the same, right? You basically use that same formula and then do stuff, right? All right, for those of you who are confused in the previous problem, once we do other problems, I think the concept will be much clearer. All you guys have to take a note of is the formula that I showed to you at the beginning of this particular section, right? So take a note of that, and all of these problems become really simple. The correct answer to this problem is exactly as Samya, Samjana, and Edward say. The correct answer is option number B, which is 138, right? How is that the case, right? Take a look at this. What we have to do in this is, we know that the numbers are in the ratio. Let's say the numbers are x and y. X is to y is equal to 1 is to 6, right? So if k is a certain factor, right? Then the numbers come out as x equals to k, right? And y equals to 6k. So these are the numbers that we are dealing with. Now, what we know is that the product of these numbers, k times 6k, is equal to the product of their LCM and their HCF or GCD, which is 138 times 23, right? So k squared comes out as 138 over 6 times 23, right? And with this, you get a certain value, right? And so you get a certain value of k, and we have to find the largest number among the two, which is 6k, obviously. So 6k comes out as 138 only, right? Was this clear to everyone? All right, it seems it's not clear to a few students. I'll be explaining this once more, right? So what the question says is that two numbers are in the ratio 1 is to 6, right? All I'm doing is assuming that one number is x, the other one is y, so they are in this particular ratio. Now, if k is a certain factor that transforms this ratio into a number, right, then x is k and y is 6k. This way, they'll still be in the ratio of 1 is to 6, yeah, right? You guys can check it as well. So now, this formula, right, this equation that I'm using is the one that I showed in the first slide of this section. So take a note of that formula, because that's super important in all of these questions, right? So from this, we can solve for the value of k. The value of k comes out as a certain number, right? Concisely, the value of k comes out as 23, right? And with that, the value of 6k comes out as 138. Is that clear now? I think you guys are confused in this formula. This is simply the formula that I showed in the first slide. You guys have to take a note of that. All right, so we'll be taking a look at other problems, and hopefully that'll clear out your confusions. All right. Now take a look at this. The least common multiple of two numbers is 168, and HCF is 12. If the difference between the numbers is 60, what's the sum of the numbers, right? All you guys need to do in this case is remember that formula, then everything comes out easy. First and foremost, let us assume that the two numbers are A and B, right? So from this, what we know is A times B, A into B, is equal to the product of their LCM and HCF, which is 168 times 12, right? We also know that A minus B is equal to 60, right? Because that is given in the question. If the difference between them is this, then what we can do is we can approach this in numerous ways, right? We can either use elimination method, find out each numbers individually, and then find out their sums. But another easier method is by using the square formulas, right? That is A plus B whole squared minus, this is squared, right? Minus A minus B whole squared is equal to 4AB, right? We know this formula. So from this, we know the value of A minus B. We know the value of AB, right? So once we solve this particular equation, what we get is A plus B is equal to 108, which is option number A. For those of you who might be confused in this first formula came from the first slide in this section, which is this. So for those of you who did not take a screenshot, take a look at this formula, right? Because this formula is super important. Right, so take a look at this, take a screenshot, note it down somewhere because this is super important. And only once you guys know this formula, the confusion will be cleared out. Because once, if you don't memorize this formula and keep on saying that you're confused, and that does not really be concise, right? So with this done, so is everyone clear on this particular problem? All right, cool. So with this done, let's move on to the other problem. This is the same as the first problem of HCF and LCM, quite simple. I think most of you can do this. Absolutely. The correct answer in this case is option number D, right? It's the same as the previous ones. We know one of the numbers is 25. So 25 times, let the other number be X. This times X is equal to 225, right? Times 5. And we know that 25 times 9 is 225. So X comes out as 45, which is the other number. This. Are you guys getting this? All right, cool. So with this done, let's move on to the final problem. Not exactly the final, but the second last problem of this section. So I'll be quickly walking you guys through this, right? Option number E is definitely not the answer because we are seeking for 4-digit numbers. Option number B is not divisible by 40, right? Is not divisible by 40 because, no, actually it is divisible by 40, but 9,000 is divisible by 40, right? 9,000 is not divisible by one of these particular numbers, all right? Just a second. I mean, 9,000 is divisible by every one of these numbers, but among these options, it's not the greatest one, right? So cancel this out. It's divisible by all of these. So it could be the potential answer if these two are not divisible by any of these numbers, right? Take a look at 9600. It's divisible by all of these numbers as well. And it is the greatest one in this particular option pool. So it is the correct answer, right? It's fairly simple. B is not the answer, C is the answer because we are seeking for the greatest number of 4 digits. All right, so with this done, let's move on to the last question. All right, so for those of you who are guessing option number C, that is not the correct answer, right? Option number B is the correct answer. Why is that the case? Take a look at this. 12, right? Take a look at 10, right? So since 10 has to leave a remainder of 2, that means that 10 has to divide 1584. But 10 does not divide 1584. 10 does not divide 1584. So option number C is out of question. Option number A, on the other hand, option number A works out, but one of these numbers don't divide option number A, right? Which one is the case in this is 312. 3 divides that, but 310, yeah, definitely. 3 has to leave a remainder of 2 when this number is divided by 3, right? So that means that 310 should be exactly divisible by 3 because 310 is 2 less than 312. But 3 does not divide 310, so option number A is out of the question as well. Now we are seeking for the least number, right? So we'll start from 962, right? 962 is divisible by 13 as well, right? That is because there is a division rule for 13. If you guys don't know this, note it down. The last, when you multiply, so we are given 962, right? So we take the last digit, multiply it by 4, right? Multiply it by 4, and then add this to the particular number, right? So 96 plus 8, right? 96 plus 8 is 104, right? Is 104 divisible by 13? It definitely is. 104 is the 8th multiple of 13. All right, so someone is asking why option number C is incorrect, right? That is because, take a look at this. Since each one of these numbers, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 12, have to leave a remainder of 2 when divided by, I mean, this number has to leave a remainder of 2 when divided by each of 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 12, right? So that means that this number minus 2, which is 1584, must be perfectly divisible by all of these numbers, right? But 1584 is not divisible by 10 because to be divisible by 10, the last digit should be 0, right? There is no other option. So just from that, we can completely eliminate option number C. Is that clear? All right, cool. So with that, what we can see is 962 is perfectly divisible by 13 because 104 is divisible by 13. This is the divisibility rule of 13, right? If you guys don't know this, you guys can Google this as well. But basically, keep this in mind, right? Divisibility rules are important when dealing with HCF and LCM and numbers in general. So we can conclude that 962 is divisible by 13. So it fulfills one of the criteria, right? Next up, we are given it should leave a remainder of 2 when divided by each of these, right? So 960, right, which is 2 less than 962, must be divisible by all of these, right? We know that it's divisible by 12 because 12 times 8 is 96. So 960 is 12 times 80. We know that it's divisible by 10 as well because the last digit is 0. We know that it's divisible by 8 as well. You guys can check if 96 is divisible by 80, that is by 8, that is 12 times 8 or 8 times 12. So 960 is divisible by 8 as well. By 6, it definitely is because it is both divisible by 3 and by 2. It's divisible by 5 as well because it's divisible by 10, right? And so it's divisible by 3 as well because 9 plus 6 is equal to 15. So this fulfills all of the criteria and is the least number from among these options. So we need not look at 1562 as well. So option number B is the correct answer. Is this clear? Is this clear to everyone? All right, cool. So with this done, we have come to the end of this discussion, right? Hopefully it was fruitful to you guys, right? I'll quickly be stopping my share.